Welcome back to another FPL video. This will be the best wildcard team for Gameweek 27, and pending the FA Cup results on Tuesday and Wednesday, there could be further changes to this team depending on which teams will feature in Blank Gameweek 29. So there could be a few changes here and there over the next couple of days, but this is what I would build on the Tuesday. And just to let you know, I actually built this team on the Sunday going into the Monday, but we'll talk about some of the choices very shortly. Drop a like on this video if you enjoy it. Let's get this over 200, and let's also push on towards 23k subscribers and beyond. That is our aim by the end of the season. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. The links are in the description below. Dylan RCM. The Discord server is easy to join at the click of a button. The same goes for the FPL League, and be sure to check out Drafthound as well. Without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. I'm not a big fan of any of the goalkeepers right now, but I would go for Neto based on the fixture in Gameweek 27 against Burnley away, but more importantly, the double Gameweek 28 double of Luton Town at home and Sheffield United at home. It doesn't get better than that, and I think 1 or 2 clean sheets over the next 3 is certainly possible for Bournemouth. You've also got Senesi in the back line. I think he's the best option in the defence, but he's also 2 yellow cards away from suspension. He's got the goal threat and some bonus points potential, but I think the best ways of covering the Bournemouth defence are Neto in goal or Senesi in the heart of that back line. You've also got a few other alternatives like Zabani or even Kerkez, but I'd rather go for Neto at this moment in time. The second goalkeeper I'm going for is Areola yet again, but he has been awful in the last couple of weeks. That's 7 blanks in a row, and he also had that save point eliminated when Brentford scored their second yesterday. But in the end, Areola is still a decent choice, and I think the clean sheets could return once again for West Ham, who got a massive win against Brentford yesterday, a 4-2 victory, and Areola remains one of the best goalkeepers to really have. Now, you might be arguing Kelleher is someone to really buy on the wild card, and he's 3.7 million. He should start against Nottingham Forest, and Alisson is out probably until April or late March after the international break. And if that's the case, then Kelleher could be quite decent, but it's Nottingham Forest away, Man City at home, then a likely blank in 29. So he might be a transfer waiting to happen for you, or you really have to depend on your first goalkeeper, in this case Neto. And I'm not so sure if that should be the case in the long term. So I'm going for Neto and Areola to cover blank Gameweek 29 in the case of Areola, and to optimise double Gameweek 28. If you have any other goalkeeper suggestions, be sure to let me know. I would like David Raya, but he won't be able to play in Gameweek 28 against his parent club Brentford, and he's likely to blank in 29. So I'm sticking with Neto and Areola. Another alternative to optimise double Gameweek 28 would be Kaminsky. It has been a while since I featured Saliba in a best wildcard team video, because I've highlighted Gabriel instead as the best Arsenal defender, but Saliba is still a good option in his own right, one of the best for bonus points, and he's second in terms of points scored amongst defenders, and he's above the likes of Trent. He's just behind Kieran Trippier, and he could actually usurp him in the coming weeks. I do like him for Gameweek 27 and 28, and from Gameweek 31 until the end of the season. The only issue with Arsenal defenders, especially if you're looking to double up, is they're likely to blank in 29, and you're relying on Leeds United being Chelsea in the FA Cup 5th round, and in Gameweek 30 it's Man City away. That's the only 2 weeks where having a double up in the Arsenal defence could really backfire, but having said that, I would still go for it. Gabriel is also amongst the 4 highest scoring defenders in terms of FPL points, and I think this double up is the best you can go for. There's no other defence I'd double up on right now. I think Saliba and Gabriel are 2 of the best defenders in the game, and in terms of tripling up on Arsenal, Saliba, Gabriel and a certain man in the midfield is the best way to go about it. Now when we go to the other defenders, there have been a few changes from the last wildcard videos, and I would go for Pedro Porro if he is fit. Just wait for more updates, of course. There's also a doggy who is more likely to feature in Gameweek 27, but if Porro is available against Crystal Palace, he could be a very good option. And there's also, looking forwards, blank Gameweek 29 where Spurs have a confirmed fixture. So at this time of the recording on the Tuesday morning, there are 3 confirmed fixtures: Burnley versus Brentford, Tottenham versus Fulham at Craven Cottage, and the last game is West Ham versus Aston Villa. Those 6 teams are confirmed to have a fixture in Gameweek 29. So having some of these players already in this wildcard team builds the foundation for navigating blank Gameweek 29 without the use of a free hit. And even if you are wildcarding this week, you can still free in 29, but I'd rather not do that and save the free hit for Gameweek 34 or 37, because I think that sets you up in the long term to navigate all the doubles and blanks in the best possible way. So I'm going for Pedro Porro with the assumption that he's fit wait for more updates. If he isn't, you can go for a doggy instead, who was in better form just before his injury, and Borro was kind of slacking a little bit once Maddison did return from his injury. But with Pedro Borro, he is on set pieces still, even with Maddison coming back. And from open play, the attacking threat has diminished slightly, but I still back him to get some attacking returns over the next 5 game weeks, where Spurs have a great fixture run, in my opinion. I talk about Pedro Borro in detail in the trans tips video as well. That leaves 2 defender slots left, and I'm not a huge fan of these options, but looking at Blank Gameweek 29 and Double Gameweek 28, I'm going to go for Alfie Doughty, and that's with the assumption that Nottingham Forest versus Luton Town goes ahead in Game Week 29. If that's the case, and we'll find out on the Tuesday and Wednesday, I would go for Doughty on a wild card because he has a double in 28 against Crystal Palace away and Bournemouth away, and then a decent fixture at home in Game Week 29. So I would only go for Doughty if he features in Game Week 29, and if you're planning on navigating that blank game week without the use of the free hit. Now, the last defender might be a bit of an awkward one because his team have been awful defensively. They just conceded 4 goals, but I'm going for Reguilon. He's got a great fixture in Game Week 29 away to Burnley, and he's got some attacking potential to boot, but the defensive numbers really need to improve. I think some of the underlying metrics have been decent over the course of the season, and Brentford are more solid defensively away from home compared to in home matches, but I still want to see a bit more from Reguilon. Otherwise, he's another one who could actually drop out of this wildcard squad. A lot of you might be thinking, just go for Senesi, and I don't mind that, but I'm not a big fan of doubling up on the Bournemouth defence. Like I said though, it ultimately depends on the FA Cup results. If Doughty doesn't feature in Game Week 29, or if you're planning to free hit in that game week, you could just go for the Argentine Senesi instead. Bukayo Saka scored the most goals of any Premier League player with 7 in total. He's in red hot form and he's got Sheffield United away next. It could be yet another double-digit haul, and ultimately Brentford at home is a very good fixture in Game Week 28. As I mentioned earlier, a likely blank in 29 followed up by Man City away in Game Week 30 doesn't look great, but Saka is fixture proof, and in the long term I think he's a season keeper. And if you are planning to go about Haaland at some stage, I think what you really want to do with that money is go for Watkins up top and the 3 midfielders, Saka, Son and Salah. And speaking of which, I haven't gone for Salah in this wildcard team, but if you're planning to free hit in Game Week 29, I don't mind going for Salah right now at all. Even though he faces Man City in Game Week 28, he can do really well against Forest. Just keep an eye out for further updates on Salah's injury because he did miss out the Carabao Cup final. The same goes for Darwin Nunez, but he should be back fairly soon. He might even be in the squad in the FA Cup against Southampton, and maybe in the squad, of course, against Nottingham Forest, and potentially start that match as well. But I'm going for Saka, and I'm building a wildcard squad to optimise Game Week 29 without the use of a free hit chip. I think it's best used in Game Week 34 or 37 for those looking to wildcard in Game Week 27 or in Game Week 28. But moving on to the other midfielders, and look, you might not believe me, and that's absolutely fine because you might just be thinking, yeah, it's very reactionary. He just did really well in Game Week 26 and now you're talking about buying him in. But I actually included Bowen in the wildcard squad before that Brentford haul yesterday, a hat-trick for Jarrod Bowen. But let's not forget, he did blank 6 times in a row, and West Ham only had 1 goal from open play in this calendar year. They were winless, but that was a massive return to form, and the key reason why is the return of Lucas Paqueta. That is massive for Jarrod Bowen, and he averages over 5.5 FPL points per game with Paqueta in the side. Without him, Bowen can't even get to 3 FPL points per game. It just goes to show how important the Brazilian is to West Ham, and in particularly for Jarrod Bowen. It's one of the best combinations and duos in the Premier League. But the key reason why I'm going for Jarrod Bowen is because of blank Game Week 29. He's one of the best options to feature there. It is against Aston Villa, but they haven't been that solid defensively. They have a lot of injury issues, and Kamara being out means they are vulnerable at the back. I think Jarrod Bowen is a good option over the next couple of weeks, and I'm not going to deny, I think Foden is a far superior option than Jarrod Bowen in Game Week 27, but he would be a transfer waiting to happen in the coming weeks. And if you go for Foden over Bowen, I'm not so against that in the long term, but if you look at the fixtures, West Ham have better ones on paper over the next 5, and in Game Week 29 it is so unlikely that Man City will feature, whilst with Bowen you have that confirmed fixture and also an extra man in blank Game Week 29 without even needing to make transfers in Game Week 28 or in blank Game Week 29. But now we're looking at our budget midfielder slot. There are many to choose from. You can go for an Elanga, for example, who could feature in Game Week 29, a Garnacho as well, Anthony Gordon, Pascal Gross, who's in incredible form. I talked about buying him all the way back in Game Week 21. I actually bought him myself, sold him at the wrong time, and the rest is history. Hwang Yi-chan remains a decent option. The same goes for Douglas Luiz, who I talked about in last week's wildcard video. But I'm going to go for a different option here, and I'm going to go for someone who I talked about selling not so long ago, and that's going to be Cole Palmer. I think he's a very underrated option against Brentford away, who just conceded 4, and they've conceded hat-tricks to a few players now, like Phil Foden and Jarrod Bowen. Cole Palmer could be next in line. It wouldn't surprise me at all, but Newcastle at home is a great fixture in Game Week 28, and to be honest with Chelsea, it wouldn't surprise any of us if Leeds United did beat them. Chelsea are still the favourites, they should go through, but Chelsea aren't in that sort of form. They're not the sort of team that are reliable and that will definitely get the job done. So that's something to monitor, and if Palmer does feature in Game Week 29, I think he's almost a must-have on the wildcard in Game Week 27. But the two midfielders left do include an Aston Villa midfielder, not Douglas Luiz though. I think he was a great option because of his home record in Game Week 26, and he did really well with a 15-pointer there. But with 2 away fixtures in the next 3, I'd rather go for Leon Bailey in Game Week 27. So timing is very important in FPL, and you never know, Douglas Luiz could still do extremely well in games like Luton Town away and West Ham away. But Tottenham at home in the middle is where I expect Douglas Luiz to perform, because he averages almost 10 points per game at Villa Park. But in terms of away games, he's only returned in 2 away matches, and I think he averages around 3 FPL points per game, if not even less than that. So there's a huge disparity in terms of Douglas Luiz in home matches and away from home, whilst Leon Bailey has been very consistent both home and away. The only issue with assets like Leon Bailey is the fact that rotation is possible. He's quite an injury-prone player. He can pick up a few knocks, and with a congested fixture schedule for Aston Villa, who are going to feature in the Conference League, the Europa Conference League, and you've got the Premier League on top of that, there could be rotation, and that's where a Douglas Luiz could just be better from a pure expected minutes perspective compared to Leon Bailey. But based on the fixtures, I think Bailey will outscore Douglas Luiz over the next 3 game weeks. And the last midfielder is going to be yet another great option. I'm not going for Salah, but instead another premium who has been so consistent, and he's now back from the Asian Cup, and I'm talking about none other than Heung-min Son. I think he's a fantastic choice from Game Week 27 to Game Week 30. I would argue he's the best midfielder and FPL option in this time frame. He's got a confirmed fixture in blank Game Week 29 against Fulham, where he's probably the best captaincy option alongside Watkins and Ivan Toney. He's got Crystal Palace at home next, who do have Oliver Glasner, and there could be a manager bounce, but Spurs have a great record against Crystal Palace, and Heung-min Son has scored against them 8 times in his career. Then it's Aston Villa, which is a tough game, but Son has 6 goals in 8 matches against Aston Villa with 1 assist, so he does really well against his upcoming opponents, and he also got a goal and assist in the reverse fixture against Fulham earlier this season, although his overall record isn't that great against them. But this midfield 5 offers you diversity, it offers you a lot of value, and you can cover all the doubles and blanks in the best possible way. And one thing you could do in Game Week 30 is upgrade the likes of Jarrod Bowen to Mohamed Salah. There has been a lot of talk about candidates for player of the season, but I think Ollie Watkins deserves to be at least nominated. He's having an incredible campaign with double digits in goals and assists, and the most important thing about him FPL wise is that he features in all the blank game weeks. We just had one go by and Watkins did very well. He's got another one in Game Week 29 against West Ham away. He's featuring 100%, there's no doubt about it, and there might not be any doubles anytime soon, but the fixtures remain good. I think around Game Week 31, 32, when Aston Villa's fixtures turn for the worse, there is a big debate to be had. Do we sell Watkins or just hold on to him? Because he is fixture proof and he is a talismanic figure for Aston Villa. And I think right now my answer would be to keep Ollie Watkins even throughout the tougher games. And you've also got Solanke, who's going to be really popular now until Game Week 32 with that fixture run and the double in Game Week 28. But then Bournemouth's fixtures turn for the worst. And I think the front three, the optimal front three from Game Week 32 until the end of the season would remain Watkins, Haaland and Ivan Toney in that case. But things change very quickly in football, and the likes of Watkins and Solanke remain good FPL options even when they have bad fixtures. And speaking of which, I'm going to go for a striker I had very recently. I sold him and it's been an absolute disaster. It's led to multiple hits and losing around 20 plus points. But Dominic Solanke for me is a buy in Game Week 27, as I covered in the Trans Tips video. And that double in 28, if you haven't used the triple captain yet, I would highly recommend using on Solanke with 2 home games against Sheffield United, like I said, and Luton Town. It's an incredible double, and I think Solanke is a great triple captaincy opportunity, and I think he will outscore Erling Haaland's total from Double Gameweek 25. And speaking of which, that's the last forward, Erling Haaland. I would go for one Man City attacker, that's for sure, either Phil Foden or Erling Haaland on the wild card. And the way I'd structure this is have Erling Haaland on the wild card and then sell him to Ivan Toney in Blank Gameweek 29 if you're planning to navigate that game week without the free hit. I don't want to repeat myself, but it's very important to place emphasis on it, and your chip strategy does play a big part in terms of which players you pick on the wild card in Game Week 27, and ultimately the FA Cup results should also have an impact on that, and that's why my transfer plans are not settled definitively until I see which teams will feature in Blank Gameweek 29. So that's the 15-man squad. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm going to quickly show you what Drafthound are recommending in terms of the best wildcard squad and use that to potentially make a few upgrades with the definitive best wildcard team for Game Week 27. There is a link to Drafthound in the description below. I'd highly recommend you check it out, and there are many different plans for different price points, and more importantly, there are so many different tools to optimize your FPL squads. You've got the optimization tool on the right hand side, which helps you sort out your captaincy dilemmas, your benching headaches, and also your transfer plans. You've got player scouting, which helps you discover the ultimate differentials and players that can make a huge difference for you and your FPL rank. There's also the fixture ticker, and you can sort it out by attacking data and potential over the next 5 game weeks. Same with defensive data. I've shown all of this in my recent live streams and videos, so be sure to check it out. There's also much more. You can compare 2 players of your choice using the player comparison and see all the predicted lineups, and I think Man City will be one team we're keeping our eye on because Pep Roulette is in full swing, as we saw in Double Gameweek 25 and Blank Gameweek 26. As you can see here on the left hand side, we've got the best wildcard team suggested by Drafthound. They've also got Neto. They had Gabriel very recently but changed to White because their predicted points does fluctuate daily, and they've also got a few other key changes. Phil Foden comes in for Jarrod Bowen, and Foden was one of the key alternatives to him that I was also thinking about in the best wildcard team, and I'd still recommend Foden, don't get me wrong. It's just for those looking to navigate Game Week 29 without the free hit, I think it's probably best to go for Bowen over Foden. But otherwise, if you're free hitting in 29, I think Foden over Bowen is the answer. Saka remains. We've also got a double up in the Arsenal attack instead with Odegaard and Richarlison instead of Heung-min Son, but we're covering the same teams there. And the front three is the exact same. I think that's the best front three you can build up until Game Week 32. Then you've got Kaminsky, Neto, Senesi and Bell. And I'm looking at that 50-man squad, and I think Senesi is the most likely to enter the final wildcard team, the definitive one for this video. And I'm not a big fan of Bournemouth defensively. I think they're one of the worst in the league still, but for Double Gameweek 28 it could be well worth it. And if you still can field an 11 in Blank Gameweek 29, or at least cover most of the key assets, that's the most important thing, the quality of players you have for the blanks rather than the quantity. And that's where Senesi in Double Gameweek 28 could well be worth it over a Doughty, for example. And the expected points does go up to 73.5, and there's a big difference there in terms of normal teams then being upgraded with the wildcard and the points potential for Game Week 27 specifically. But more importantly, you're looking at Double Game Week 28 and having that really optimized, and then in Game Week 29 you also have a very good base there as well. So be sure to check out Drafthound. There is a link in the description below, and I'll be using this resource. It has added one other player to the wildcard squad that could feature, but I'll talk about this using FPL.team as we visualize Double Game Week 28 and Blank Game Week 29. First of all though, we have to talk about Game Week 27 and the starting 11, and in goal I'm going for Neto away to Burnley. The back three would be Saliba, Gabriel, Pedro Porro, and a midfield four of Saka, Bailey, Palmer and Heung-min Son, and the front three is Solanke, Haaland and Watkins, and the bench is Areola, Bowen, who just scored a hat-trick, Reguilon and Alfie Doughty. And the reason why I've gone for this and not Senesi originally is because in Double Game Week 28 it does look a bit weaker. I think Senesi has a better clean sheet chance than Doughty, for example, but we've already got Neto to cover the Bournemouth defence, and we'd have Saliba and Gabriel both facing Brentford at home. You've got Doughty with that double, you've got Saka, Bailey, Palmer, Son, and a front three of Solanke, Haaland and Watkins. And and the bench is also quite decent. And to be honest, I'd actually start Jared Bowen here. And who do you start him over? That's the key question. That's where things get very tricky, but I think I'd start him over Leon Bailey, and it does increase the expected points to 81.6 according to FPL.team. You've got Ariel at home to Burnley, but you'd always start Neto with the double, of course. You've also got Pedro Porro and Reguilon. So it's still a good setup for double Gameweek 28. And then when you look at blank Gameweek 29, once again, free hit dependent. It depends on your chip strategies. You've got Ariel in goal, Pedro Porro, Reguilon, Doughty, assuming that Forest and Luton Town does go into Gameweek 29, and that is going to be dependent on the FA Cup 5th round result between Man United and Nottingham Forest. If Man United beat Nottingham Forest, then Doughty will feature in Gameweek 29. But if that isn't the case and Forest and Luton Town blank, I think Senesi over Doughty just makes complete sense from the get-go in Gameweek 27. Bowen, Bailey, Maddison and Heung-min Son would be the midfield four. So with 2 free transfers, you can get to 10 players very easily. And then you've got Tony and Watkins up front. You could even take a -4 hit and go for a full 11. Maybe Awani could be a nice differential if you want another striker. In the midfield, Anthony Elanga could be a decent choice. You could even go for 3 Spurs midfielders if you wish and go for Richarlison, Maddison and Heung-min Son. But that would mean no Pedro Porro or a Doggy at the back, of course. Even Barkley if Luton Town feature in blank Gameweek 29. So as you can see, a lot is dependent on the FA Cup results, and if Luton Town don't feature in Gameweek 29, I have to stress that I would definitely go for Senesi over Doughty instead. So if you're not really that bothered about having 10, 11 players in Gameweek 29 and you really want to optimize Gameweek 27, that's one key change I'd make to this wildcard squad as suggested by Drafthound. It would be Senesi instead of Doughty, and you could even start Senesi this week over Pedro Porro, especially if the Spaniard is still injured, and also if, let's say for example, Spurs are looking poor defensively and you're maybe expecting Crystal Palace to score some goals. So there's a lot to think about, of course, with this wildcard team. Who would you go for, Senesi or Doughty? Would you look to maybe navigate Gameweek 29 without the free hit, or would you still free hit even though you wildcard in 27 or in 28? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below, and thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to the 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 23,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the FPL League, and Drafthound, which I showed you just a couple of minutes ago. I wish you all the best of luck for Gameweek 27 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.